Hi everyone, welcome you all. So in this video, I'm going to explain about polymorphism in Python. And this polymorphism can be achieved by using overriding and overloading concepts. Now let us see what is a polymorphism in Python. So sometimes an object comes in many types or forms. So if you have a button, so there are many different raw outputs like a round button, check button, square button, or button with some image, but they do share the same logic. So whenever we click on the button, it will do the same thing, and we can access them using the same method. So this idea is basically called as a polymorphism. Means there is one thing can have multiple behavior. So the same thing can behave in different ways based upon the input we provided. So that is the concept of polymorphism. So thus polymorphism can be achieved by using overriding and overloading concept in Python. Now let us see what is method overriding first. So method overriding means overriding can be applied for methods as well as variables. We can override the methods and also we can override the variables. So override basically means having two methods with the same name but doing different tasks. Having two methods with the same name but different tasks. And it means that one of the method overrides the other. Okay, so for example, let me just give you an example here. So for example, I have a class A and also class B. So in class A, I have defined one method called as a, for example, let's create a display method, right? And the same method I have again created in class B, right? So the A is extended into class B. Now B is a child class of A. Now when I create the same method in class B, so what we are doing here is we are overriding this method. So when I create an object for class B, that will execute the method which is created inside the class B. And when I call this method from class A, and it will execute this from class A. Okay, so this is called method overriding. Now let us see few examples on method overriding concept practically. So let me open the PyCharm. So here I'm going to create a new Python file. I will name it as a polymorphism test and click on OK. Now what I can do is simply I will just try to override the variable. So overriding concept can be used for variables as well as method. So in this example, I'm going to show you how to override a variable. So what I can do is first I will create one parent class. Okay, parent, and inside this class I will create a variable called name is equal to something called as a start. Okay, this is a simple class which contains a variable. Now I will create one more class and I will name it as a child class, and this class is extended from parent class. This class is extended from parent class. Now again one more time I will create the same variable here. I will just say, but this time I will provide the different name, right? So this is the child class. Now I will create an object for child class. Let's say child, right? So now what happens is when I call obj dot name, right? When I get obj dot name, when I access this variable, and let's print this value, print obj dot name. So what this will print here, we have just created an object variable for child class, right? So child class, we already have the name is equal to David. So even though the child class is extended to the parent class, the current and the latest value of name variable is David. So this should print David. So this should print David. Now let's run this code. Now we will get the David as an output. So that means the latest value whichever we have overridden, so that value will be printed. So for example, in the child class, I haven't implemented anything. I will just a pass here. And which variable it will call now. So first it will go and verify in the child class. So it doesn't have anything. So obviously it will execute or it will call the parent class variable. Now when I run this, it will give you parent class variable, right? So this is a small concept of overriding a variable. Now I will also show you how to override the methods. Now let's go to with another example. So in this example, I'm going to show you how to override the methods. So let's say again here I have a class. I will define a class called as a bank. Okay, so this is my bank class, and in this bank class I will create a method. Let's say rate of interest. So this is a method I have created. So this is a method, right? Right. So inside this method, I will just return some value. Let's say I'll return 0, right? So similarly, I will also create one more class, and let's say ICICI, and this particular class is extended from a bank class. This class is extended from bank class. Now what I will do is, in this ICICI bank, I will override the whatever method we created in the parent class. Now let me override this. Now here the rate of interest will be different. Let's say 10.5. So now what I have done is, I have just created one more child class of the bank, and I have just overridden the same method. Now if you see this in two classes, same method we have, but it will perform different jobs. So here it will return 0, here it will return 10.5. Same thing and two different functionalities, right? So this is a polymorphism. So let's say I have just created one object, right? So if I create an object for this class, let me just create an object. Let's say obj, okay, is equal to, I'm just creating an object for ICICI. Now using this obj, when I call a rate of interest method, so what this will execute now, so it will not just call this method, it just return the value, it will not print anything, right? We have to print that returned value, so we have to use print function or print method here. So now what happens, I have just created an object for ICICI, which is a child class. Now I immediately calling rate of interest method. So it will return 10.5, and here 10.5 will be returned. Now when I run this, it will give you 10.5. So what we have understood based on this is, we have just overridden the method. As soon as we overridden the method in the child class, we whenever we call this class, whenever we create an object for the child class, it will call the latest method. Okay, if sometimes if the latest method is not available, then it will go up and call the parent class method. Okay, if this method is not available, then it will go and call the parent class method. It will go and call the parent class method. Okay, so for example, if I want to call specially parent class method, I have to create an object for bank class. Let's say one more object I am creating, obj1 is equal to bank, and now you can call this bank class. Let's say bank and obj1 dot rate of interest. So when I call this, now it will call the method from the bank class. Now when I run this, it will give you 10.5. Okay, so this is again called as a overriding concept. Same method we have used. Again, we have overridden in the child class. We can create any number of child classes like this. And one thing is performing many forms. So one thing, the same method is performing multiple jobs, right? So this is a kind of overriding concept. So we have seen overriding of variable and also overriding of methods. Overriding means same thing, same method will recreate in the child class. That is called as a overriding concept. So with overriding, we can also achieve the polymorphism. And there is one more concept called as a overloading. Overloading. So by using overloading also, we can achieve the polymorphism concept in OOPS, object-oriented programming. Now I'll show you how to work with the overloading, and before that let us see what is overloading. So in Python you can define a method in such a way that there are multiple ways to call it, and given a single method or function we can specify the number of parameters ourselves. Okay, so let me just give you one example. So for example, if I create a method, let's say I have created add method, and here we need to pass some parameters. So based upon the number of parameters, it will execute on specific method. Suppose it is taking 1, 2, the other method is taking, so suppose if I pass 1, 2, the same method will act something different. And if I pass different parameters, and the same method will be called and it will act it differently. And if I pass different parameters, again it will act again differently. Same thing will be differently behaved based upon the inputs we provided. Okay, this is a kind of overloading concept in Python. Let's see a few examples on this. Let's go to Python one more time. I'm removing this. So here I'm going to show you one example for overloading. How to overload methods. So to demonstrate this, what I can do is I will just create one simple class called as a human, right? So in this class I will create a method called def. Let's say hello method, and here I will just pass one parameter called as a name. Alright, now here what I can do is I will assign the default parameter is none. Suppose we can pass the value for the name from the actual method, or if I don't pass anything, it will by default assign the none to this variable. Okay, now in this method I will just put one condition: if name is not none. Okay, if the name is not none, what I should do now is I should just print hello, just print hello. So not none means it contains some name, right? So name is equal to none I put. This is the default variable. Suppose if I pass some name, suppose if I pass some Scott, so name is equal to Scott. Now here what I'm saying is I'm checking the negative condition. If name is not none, that means there should be some name, right? So here hello, I will also append something called name, concatenate with the name. So the hello concatenation with the name whichever we provided here. So this is a one condition I will have. Suppose if I didn't pass any value for the name, that will be taken by default as a none, right? So here in the else block, I will write print just hello. Okay, just hello I'll print. Now how it will execute whenever I call this method, if I pass a name to that particular method, so the first condition will become true, so it will print hello along with the name. Suppose if I don't pass anything to this particular method, just it will execute L part. So the same method will behave in two different ways. If I pass a name, it will behave differently. If I don't pass a name, then it will differently behave. So let us see how we can call this method. Now this is a class which contains a method I created. Now if I want to call this method, how we can call? We can just need to create a object for human, right? So let me create obj is equal to human, and by using this object I will just say hello. I'll just say hello, and observe this carefully. So this time I'm not passing any value. So what happened now, when I don't pass any value, by default the name will be none. None means no value. So what is the condition now? If name is not none, that means name is none means the else part will be executed here, because when this name is equal to none, if it doesn't pass anything, okay, here I'm not passing anything, right? Anything means name will be assigned to the none. So if a name is a none, what happened now? It will execute only else block. If name is not none, then it will execute hello along with the name. If the name is none, okay, let me just pass one variable here. Let me just say I'll pass my variable. I'll pass my name here. Observe this now. So I'm not passing the name. What happens now? By default, name value is a none. But if I pass some value, what happens now? Name value becomes Pavan. So now what happens if name is not none? So the first condition, if condition, will becomes true. If the name is not none, because name value I'm passing it here. So name is not none now. So then what happens if the name is not none? It will print hello name, right? So when I execute this code, it will print hello Pavan. Alright. Suppose same method I will call one more time, but this time I didn't pass any value here. And then what happens if I didn't pass any value? Name will be assigned to the none, though then if condition will not match. When this if condition will match, if the name is not none, then it will match. But here we are passing empty, right? That means it is a none. None means else block will execute. Now this time it will also give you only hello part. So what we understood based on this, the same method will behave in two different ways. If I pass a parameter, it behaves differently. If I didn't pass any parameter, it behaves differently, right? So this is a kind of a polymorphism process. Same thing, and the behavior is different. All right. So this is a kind of polymorphism. All right. Now I'll show you one more example. This is one example for overloading methods. Now I'll show you one more example for overloading methods. And here what we have done is, okay, so let me just show you. Again, this is again example for overloading methods. See, now what I can do is I will just create one class called as a bird. And in this class, I will create a function method. Let's say def fly method. And here again I'll do the same. So self, and I'll pass a bird name here later. For now I'm just making as a null. Okay. Here I will create one condition. If name is equal to right, let's say parrot. Name is equal to parrot. If the bird name is equal to parrot, what I should do now, I will just print here. Okay, I will just print here. So parrot cannot fly or can fly. So parrot can fly, right? So I'll just say can fly. Okay, suppose if this condition is false, let's write one more condition. If suppose name is equal to, let's say penguin. Okay, suppose name is equal to penguin. So now what happens? Spelling is wrong, right? G-U-I-N-E, right? So if the name is penguin, this is also bird. So if the name is penguin, it cannot fly, right? So I'll just say cannot fly. Okay, now I had two different methods I have written. Suppose if name is none. So suppose if I didn't pass any name for the bird, what should execute? It should execute no input. It should execute, I'll just say no input. So I have just created a method inside the class. The method name is fly, which will take one parameter, name as a parameter. If the name is a parrot, then it will print can fly. If the name is a penguin, it cannot fly. If the name is none, means if I didn't pass any bird name, then finally the last one will be executed, right? So the same thing, same fly method, and I will pass different kinds of inputs and different kinds of output we will get. Now here I will just, how we can call this method, through this class name. So I will just create a object for this bird class, right? So now using this object I will just call fly method or fly function. So see, first time I'm not passing any parameter. Now what happens? So it will go here. If I didn't pass any parameter, so name will be assigned to the none by default. None means if the name is none, what should happen? No input is provided. So when I run this code, no input is there, no input. And suppose if I pass something called as a parrot, let's see, parrot. Now what happens? The name will be assigned to the parrot. The first condition will becomes true, and it should print can fly. Now let's run this. It should print can fly. So same method I'm calling by passing different kinds of inputs or parameters, and behavior will be different. Now instead of this, I will pass a penguin. I'll pass a penguin. Now when I run this, it will give you cannot fly. So because the second condition is matched. Okay. So based upon the parameter, the behavior is changed. The same thing again, same method is behaving in different way based upon the inputs we provided. So this is the concept of overloading. So polymorphism in Python can be achieved by using either overriding concept and overloading concept. So this is all about polymorphism concept in Python. So that's all for this video. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe my channel to get more updates on this. Thank you all.